Hello students, welcome back to another video. In the last video I defined what a circuit is. There are actually two different types of circuits, series circuits and parallel circuits. The focus of today's video is going to be on series circuits. A good definition for a series circuit is an electric circuit where current flows in a single path through the circuit's components. The other type of circuit is a parallel circuit. We'll talk more about those tomorrow, but in a parallel circuit, the current splits into different paths, whereas series is just a single path. Here's a picture of a very basic circuit. I would be able to tell that this is a series circuit because the current would flow in a single path. There aren't any other paths that the current can branch off into. Okay, series circuits have a couple qualities that I want to describe and write down so you can better understand how to think about series circuits, more specifically how to think about currents, voltage, and resistance in a series circuit. Here I've drawn another circuit. In this one I have a 9-volt battery hooked up to two different resistors, all connected in series, so the current will flow from the battery into the first resistor, and then into the second resistor, and then back through this loop to the negative end of the battery. It's important to remember that current always flows out of the positive side of the battery and then returns back into the negative side. The first thing I want to clarify about series circuits is that the current going around the series circuit is constant no matter where it is. So the current right here is the same as the current right here, and is also the same between the resistors. At any point in the series circuit, the current is going to be the same. Okay, so I've written that out here. Current is constant in a series circuit. As long as the voltage stays the same and as long as the resistors stay the same, current will be constant no matter where you measure it. Because current is constant in a series circuit, if I imagine that these resistors were light bulbs instead of resistors, well, technically light bulbs have resistance to them, so they can function as resistors as well. But if I have two of the same light bulb at these two spots, they would glow at an equal brightness because they are receiving the same amount of current and they're both getting 9 volts of potential. In this week's weekly assignment, you'll see some problems that ask about that. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is resistance for a series circuit. Let's say this first resistor is a 1 ohm resistor and the second resistor is a 2 ohm resistor. Okay, so I know my voltage is 9 volts. I know my first resistor has 1 ohm of resistance, the second is 2 ohms. And if I want to find what the current is, I would use Ohm's law, which we discussed in the last video. This is that triangle I showed you in the last video for Ohm's law. If I want to find current, it's going to be equal to voltage divided by resistance. I know the voltage is 9, but since I have two resistors, I have to figure out the total resistance for the circuit before I can plug it into that equation. To find the total resistance of the whole circuit, we use this equation for series circuits specifically. It says that the total resistance is equal to just the sum of all the resistances. So in this case there's only two resistors, so it says R1 plus R2, but if there are more resistors, I would have to add all of those resistances as well. But in this case, R1 plus R2 is just 1 plus 2, so it's 3. Now that I have found my total resistance, I have my voltage already, now I can find current by using Ohm's law. So now I have to do voltage divided by resistance, so it's 9 volts divided by 3 ohms, and this comes out to 3 amps. So I was able to find the current of the entire circuit by knowing the resistances of those two resistors as well as how many volts were in that battery. And just to restate that current is constant, these 3 amps would be flowing out of the battery as well as between the resistors, and also the current going into the battery is all going to be 3 amps. Okay, so these are the very basic, most fundamental rules whenever you think about series circuits. Current will flow from positive to negative in this loop, and there's only one path that current can take in a series circuit. This current will be constant no matter where you look, and also the total resistance of the circuit can be given by this equation. It's just the total sum of all the resistances for each resistor. Okay, that's going to be all for today's video. In the next video we'll discuss parallel circuits. Thank you guys, see you next time.